Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Today I wanted to talk to you about 90 Day Fiancé, Before the 90 Days, Season 6, Episode 11, St. Elmo's Fire. It kind of felt like a lackluster filler type of episode to me, but I'm still excited to talk with you guys about it. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it with Gino and Jasmine. They're still out on their little getaway, cooking food. They even had the proper equipment. And then they go and walk on a nature path. You know, it was like a path with a bunch of rocks. Apparently their relationship has been as rocky as this path since he got there. But this trip has really helped. They make it to this beautiful waterfall, and like Gino's like, "Oh, let me shower in it." She's like, "It's too cold." I'll keep that joke to myself. Anyways, they keep walking, and he thinks that the next step of her moving to the United States, to Michigan, is to resolve the issues she has with his family. He's like, we didn't have time to call my cousin yesterday, so, maybe they can today. She's in front of him on the rock path, but she's definitely rolling her eyes. And he's like, let's, come and have a seat on these rocks and do this. She says she's just been so mad since his cousin she never even met, sent her a mean message on social media questioning her love for Gino. So they start video calling. Jasmine makes sure to scoot out of the frame. So she's like, "Don't show me immediately, just you." And she's like, "I'm going to ambush this guy," or something. She's anxious because she doesn't want him to not like her, because, they're important to Gino. But if he attacks her, Gino's just going to be in the middle of a war. And, we'll see. She just knows she can't control her mouth. Finally, Dana, that's the cousin, he answers. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in paradise. And Jasmine's here. Say hi." It's awkward. And Gino's like, "Well, hey, you remember the message that you sent Jasmine? And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I told her you didn't mean anything by it." Dana, he says, "Look, Gino, I know how much that you love her, but I don't know her that well, and I just had a doubt." Jasmine asks him what kind of doubts. He says, he sees on the internet all of her face treatments and, her lifestyle, and he just sees that she gets benefits from being with Gino. She's out there living her best life. So he wanted to know if it was real and if she really loved him. She's like, she doesn't want to be rude, but she only needs to prove her love to Gino. And he's like, "Yeah, but all I really know about are the arguments." And he's like, "Is that love?" She says, for the record, she loves Gino. And yeah, they have arguments, but he's a grown-ass man and he doesn't need babysitters. And anything that he gives her is from his heart. And, it's because he wants to. Gino isn't some innocent baby and she's the bad guy. She said, he said it wasn't an interrogation, it was a few words. And, she's right, it is none of his business. And I'm just wondering if Gino texted him the script for this beforehand. She rolls her eyes again. She doesn't think it's a sincere apology. He's doing it because Gino's there, and he really thinks she's a gold digger. Even so, even if he thinks that, who cares? He's going to be cordial to you. He's apologizing. He's letting Gino do what Gino wants. So Gino thanks him for talking to them, and he's glad they worked out some stuff. But they didn't, Gino was hoping they would resolve this. But he knows that Jasmine's not going to let it go. She won't. He's trying to say goodbye to his cousin, and she's like, "Okay, bye," and just hangs up before Gino even says anything. and he just wants them to get along. He doesn't want to have to choose between her and his family. Then they start to head back. Jasmine's like, wants a picture by the waterfall. He's like, he felt the conversation could have went a little better, but she didn't blow up, so that's good news. And she also didn't try to make an amends with his cousin. And since, things are going so well for them, he wants to address some concerns with her. And he just thinks he has a better chance of doing it now than when things are bad. So, he wants to talk to her before he leaves. And he says, when they called his cousin, he'd hoped she could work out. Not saying, mean things about his family and, that they should be less involved in his life. He wishes she wouldn't say these things anymore because it's his family and they're important to him. And he just wanted to let her know that it bothers him. And he's like, just have a positive attitude. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm working on that. And it's just her anxiety and her anger issues. And, she does feel bad. And, but what would Gino do if his family hates her? And he's like, they won't. And she's like, well, what's an example if they do? And he's like, well, I would talk to them and ask why they feel that way and, talk to her about it and work it out. And she's like, but will you defend me? And he's like, well, it depends on what happens and who says what. Which is like what anyone should do. She's scared of losing him because of his family. He says that she shouldn't feel that way. And she's like, I haven't even made it there. The whole family hates me. He says they don't. She's still scared they will. She knows that she's unstable and rude and can't manage her anxiety. So there's some good news. This has been a lifelong problem for her. And she says, when she feels insecure and hurt, she puts on a shell by hurting them even more. And then she regrets it because she hurts the people she loves. She's trying to break this cycle. She wants to save her relationship. And she tells him he's the only man on earth that has put up with her crap. And he's like, I told you I'm here 100%, but my family's also important to me. He wants her to be excited to meet them and not threatened. And she's going to try to work on that. He hugs her and he thanks her for, being honest. And she gets more red lipstick all over him and everyone's happy. I was happy that I wasn't completely disgusted by their segment. So that was nice. I feel really bad for her that she always feels so insecure in these things. I know she handles it the complete wrong way. But it sounds like she's starting to see that too. I hope that when she does come here, if we see that, we could see her get along with his family. Maybe that would help. Maybe everyone would be happy. I must be in a good mood. I'm wishing them a happy ending. All right, moving on. I'm going to talk about David and Sheila. It's been a few days since her mom's funeral. And, David's never seen her so sad and depressed. And it just breaks his heart. And he wants to help her to feel better. He goes to meet up with her after he got done shaving. And, she tells him she likes it. He looks even more handsome. It didn't look to me like he had shaved much, anything. It was still there. Anyway, Amy joins them. And we find out, he hired her for the rest of the trip so she can help them communicate. He hopes that Sheila is okay because she gets jealous. But he thinks that she likes Amy and he's hoping she'll open up if she can communicate more easily. And I think she likes Amy because she was there for her, when her mom passed. And I think she's comfortable with her, but I don't think she's still, her jealousy probably hasn't went away. That might go away the more they get to know each other. Anyway, Amy gets there. She asks them how they've been since the funeral. Sheila says, of course it was very hard, and it was hard to accept what had happened to her mom. And she can't forget the way that her mom fell, and she's just traumatized now. Poor Sheila, she starts crying, and Amy's rubbing her arm to comfort her. And, I thought that was nice. David says he knows that it's hard, but he thinks, she's going to be stronger. And I'm thinking, well, that's not going to help. Like, I don't know if that's something that makes you stronger, it's not like some hardship you overcome ever. So she says she knows that he wants to comfort her, but they struggle to communicate anytime. And now it's a lot harder because she has to grieve. And she wants to put that aside and focus on her relationship because, they don't have a lot of time. And now they're headed off to her house to meet the contractor, or a contractor. Because her mom's accident really makes her want to fix the house soon. But she can't afford that, and she needs David's help. So they're in the cab, and she tells Amy to ask David how much he can afford, because she doesn't know how much money he has. How much is his salary from the casino and the grocery store. He says he makes $800 a week, and Sheila's face lights up, and she's like, oh, that's a lot, right? She's like, for that, they would have a condo in the Philippines. David, in his interview, communicates that he thinks that thinks that he has a lot of money because he has a job and pays bills and stuff, but he isn't a rich person. But he's more than happy to help her because he loves her. So they get to their house, and they do what they did again in the beginning with the shaving, where like halfway through they stop the sound. So they get there, then the sound stops, and the contractor introduces himself. They all say hello. The contractor asks where David's from, and she tells him America. And this man is smiling from ear to ear, like he just saw dollar signs. Like in the cartoons with the stars that float around the guy's head. That's what happened. And he's telling him, he'll replace everything. The stairs, something from the wall, the whole room. He's like, Sheila's really lucky because, their house has been like this for a long time. He's like, I'm going to do the roof too. And the flooring. They'll have plumbing before long. The guy's like, before you know it, it's going to be fixed. Sheila will be really lucky. This contractor just won the jackpot. He says, like, to fix everything, it'll cost $100,000. I think it's bot, but they spelled it PBT. But, $100,000 of that. They tell David, he's like, I need to know what that is in American. $1,725.15. And he's like, wow, that's expensive. Which it is a lot of money. That's like, if someone asked me for that today, I don't have it. But at the same time, like, you could redo a whole house for that, so that's pretty good. Anyway, he says he wants to help her, but he had no idea it would cost that much. I'm pretty sure he was just thinking he was going to replace the stairs. Not the entire house. Like, they might as well knock it down with what they're talking about. He's like, yeah, we need to discuss this in private. So they still need to discuss his financial situation. She tells the contractor they'll discuss it and she'll get back to them. And this man looks deflated and walks away. And it's a lot of money, but it's not. I would try to do the best I could to help her. I do think the contractor thought he was going to get a lot more money than he should have. Things like that. But, he could start GoFundMe or something to help this woman. We could. Well, I'm not gonna. But you know what I mean. Anyway, later that night, Sheila decides to take him to a sports bar. And, he says he knows it's hard to lose a parent. And he just wants to help and support her so she can move those thoughts to the side and, have a good, happy, fun night. Famous last words on these shows, right? So they get some beers, and she asked David what he thinks of the bar they're in. He likes it. She's like, yeah, there's a lot of girls. And he just wasn't sure what to say. Imagine like having to sit there and communicate your jealousy and insecurities through a translator. Right? And so she's like, I saw him looking at girls with his eyes. He's like, I was just looking at their face. I wasn't looking them up and down. And he was just people watching. Watching people play pool, things like that. And he loves Sheila. She wants to find out about the house, you know, if he can pay for it. Where will he get the money? All the things. He says, you know, that's going to be expensive and he can't pay all of it. He isn't rich. You know, that's why he works 2 jobs and it's still hard. You know, she says it's embarrassing having to ask for help. Like, he already helps her. She doesn't have a job and he does. Now she's embarrassed because it was like too much to ask for. She says her situation there is difficult, that she did have a job before the pandemic, but now it's hard to find work. And she's embarrassed, but her family can't help her financially. He's like, well, I can send you money, you can find a job, and then you can contribute to the house. She's like, look, if he can't afford it, don't force it. So she doesn't want to get a job. Now she's just worried that he thinks she wants his money. He shakes his head no. She's, you know, telling him she's not after his money. And now she's realizing he doesn't have money to support her or her son. And she has a lot of questions. Seeing her mom die poor, she realizes she wants a better life. You know, he tells her how things are hard, money's tight, but they'll figure out a plan when he gets back. He can send her a little at a time and see how that goes. Now, I like Sheila, but she saw her mom die poor. She wants a better life. He doesn't have enough money to support her and her son. Like, do you know that even the worst place here isn't as bad as what she's been living in? So even if they come to this country and struggle a little financially, she's going to have a better life. And I hate even saying that, but she made it sound like all of a sudden he can't take care of them when she's living in these conditions. Like, anything to help, I would be grateful for. Or, you know, even him saying he'll send a little at a time. Send a little at a time. And I know she's embarrassed and, like, mad she even asked, but she did. He offered a solution. I'll send you little bits of money at a time. You can get a job. She's like, no, forget it, you know. And now I'm thinking you can't take care of me and my son. Like, what? I don't know. I just thought that part was a little off-putting to just say that when, like, I would be grateful for any help. And I'm sure she is. She's going through stress. It's a hard time for her. And she wants to get it fixed. But, like I said, if someone asked me for that much money, I wouldn't have it. So, anyways, next. All right, guys, let's see how Tyrae is doing at the bar. See if he's going to shoot his shot. So, he's still waiting at the bar. He's waiting for Carmela to join him. He's nervous. He can't believe he's meeting the real woman. And he wants to know if she's involved in the scam. After, like, what he went through, he doesn't believe anything he can't see. So he needs to meet her in person to see if she's lying. Like, what does it matter if she's lying or not, you know? Let it go. Anyway, he's worried about what could come from this meeting, even though she's not the person that he's been talking to. She still has the face that he loved. Finally, the door opens. She walks in. He has a big smile. I didn't think she looked the same as in her pictures, but, you know, whatever. They found this actress who looked kind of like her. And she puts on her glasses so she can see him and then takes them off again after she gets a look. You know, she's like, how are you doing? He says he's okay. He tells her it's weird and she feels the same. He's like, seeing her in person is like a mind F, and she even looks better than in the photos. She's dressed nice. She's got her nails done. She's got all the things. He says, this is the person I was in love with for 4 years. And I'm like, no, it isn't. So, he does know that it's not really her, and that hurts him. So, he doesn't know where to start. He met her on the dating app, and she came on to him. He's anxious. He tells her the whole story. We already know what happens. And, he just feels stuck about it now. He knew it would be hard to go meet her. He was dating an image of her for years. He says, she's nice, but she seems uncomfortable. Maybe she knows something or she has guilt, and that's why. And it's like, you just said you were in love with the image of her for 4 years. Like, now you're suspicious. So he just straight up asked her if she has anything to do with it. Like, does she know Christian from Barbados? And, like, does she know these people? She doesn't. She thanks him for letting her know. It freaks her out having people kind of, like, steal her identity. He says, when she says that she isn't involved, he believes her. She seems genuine. Like, I swear he said he watched Catfish. He clearly doesn't. Like, most people wouldn't know. So he's happy about it, but at the same time it sucks. Because he isn't any closer to finding out who the real person is. So she's like, have they tried to reach out to you? He says no. He was expecting an apology or an explanation at least. A lot of people told him that, he wouldn't get closure. And it's hard. And she agrees, especially with how badly he wanted it to work out. He says, he's thanking her that she helped him confirm that it's just a big scam. She's like, I hope I didn't burst your fantasy. He's like, she didn't. It's not a fantasy. Now it's reality. They get her to the side and they ask her why she chose to meet up with him. She's like, well, it's complicated, At first, she was like, I don't know this guy. And it's weird that he fell in love with pictures of her and, like, a person pretending to be her. But, he seems like a good guy, and she basically just feels sorry for him. She asks him what he's thinking, and, it's a lot. He feels like this is almost over, and he can, block and delete the fake Carmela. And she says, yeah, just close that chapter. Don't stick around and see how red the flags can get. And I just loved that line. She's like, don't let this stop you from trying again. He deserves love and happiness. And he says she's sweet. And, he feels like they are vibing. And then he's like, oh, I got you a gift. And, she likes the candle. But it was an ugly candle. Oh, my gosh. No thanks. I love candles. But anyways, she says thank you. And then he's like, oh, are you in a relationship? She's like, no, I'm doing my own thing. If she meets someone along the way, great. He's like, oh, can we keep in touch and be friends? He's not going to do anything weird. That's why he's ready to block and delete the old Carmela so he can put the real one in there. He's like, he wants to come back to Denver, and maybe she can come to California, and they could, do things, travel places. He could show her around. And he's really glad he came to Denver. He might never get the answers he's looking for, and he's just starting to accept that. The last month has been crazy for him. Lies, exposure, and heartbreak. But it's all made him stronger. He walks her to the car. They hug. He thinks he was drawn to an online relationship with the fake Carmela because he was afraid of having a relationship in the real world. But now he realizes he needs to get out of his shell. And he feels more confident than ever. Someone's out there for him. And maybe that's the closure that he needs. So good. Hopefully we don't, see him again till the reunion. I've had enough of this. She seems nice, like she was being polite. I don't know that much is gonna come from it. He doesn't have a lot of game, so hopefully he can work on that. But I thought it was funny, oh, do you have a boyfriend? When not 2 weeks ago he was bashing her for the work she does and that kind of thing. So that's enough of that guy. Okay, guys, we're headed to a Valentine's Day scavenger hunt extravaganza with Statler and Dempsey. Dempsey arrives home. There's a rose on the counter and a card with her name. The card says, "I hope you had a fabulous day. Let's have some fun." Her first clue is outside in the field in front of the door. Dempsey says she's been gone all day. It's Valentine's Day. She has no idea how Statler pulled this off. They're together 24/7 and she doesn't know the area that well. But she thinks it's the most romantic thing anyone's done for her. She's scouring the field. She finds her clue. It's another rose. It says, "Good job finding clue 2. Don't open the gift. Just bring it with you. The next clue is at the wood in a bag." So she goes there. She finds it. More roses. It says, "Get some warm clothes and let's meet under the stars and roast some s'mores." She had no idea that she was going to do something like this. The unknown is making her nervous, and she really hopes that this doesn't end in a proposal. Meanwhile, Statler's ready. She has the fire going. She's nervous. She has to tell Dempsey she wants to move in with her and live with her forever. And she might not agree to that. So, being with Dempsey the last week has been amazing. It felt right to her. She's happier than she's ever felt before. Now she wants to talk about the future. She wants to make sure they feel the same. But if she says she's not ready, then that's going to really suck. So that might mean things aren't going as well as she thinks for her. Dempsey arrives and she gives her more roses and some pomegranate drinks. And Statler's really sucking this drink down. She must be nervous, but, she tells Dempsey, "Oh, this is just a really good drink." She, finishes the drink immediately, and Dempsey opens the gift, and they're mushroom earrings made from mushrooms that she brought from Dallas, so that's pretty cool. She actually did plan a gift ahead of time, so that's good. And it was a gift that Dempsey would like. No one's done anything like this for Dempsey, and she feels special. But she's still worried because Statler's intense, and she might have something else up her sleeve. So, Statler's sitting there. She's having the worst time eating this s'more. It's all over her hands and face, and it's just melting. And, they figure that out. She's like, "I've gathered you here today because it's Valentine's Day, and, her feelings have increased. She wasn't expecting things to go this well. She didn't expect her to be as amazing as she is in person. And she loves her." Dempsey says she also loves Statler. And Statler's like, "Well, are you serious? 100%? And she's like, "Yeah, she does." Statler's like, "Oh, so now that we reached the I love you, you love me stage, I'm going to get home from England and I have a month until my lease is up and I'm not planning on renewing it." So her next step is to move to England, with her. Dempsey's like, "I do love you," and she does feel strongly for her, but she thinks they should take it slow and not move in too quickly. They've also both had a history of moving in too fast in the past. That hasn't worked out well for them. She's like, "Well, what if you got your own place up the road and maybe after 6 months we could hopefully move in together?" Who does that remind you guys of? Julio? Anyway, that's a different video. Statler's like, well, what's the point in that? I'm all in, or, what's the point? She doesn't understand why Dempsey doesn't want her to move in. And, like, she's okay with her moving to England and living somewhere else. But if they love each other and are trying to build a future, why would she move to another country and not live with her? That makes sense. I could understand. But she wants to move in, like, immediately. She probably wouldn't even go home if she didn't have to. Dempsey is like, do you think we know each other well enough? And Statler's like, yeah, I think so. Dempsey's like, we have a lot to learn about each other. Dempsey didn't know that she had cheated on people in the past. She just learned that a few days ago. She's like, if she doesn't know that about her, what else doesn't she know? She's like, well, I haven't asked you about your ex. Is there anything between you? She says no. And Dempsey asks if they talk. Statler tells her that they do. And I'm like, well, I wonder if she's going to mention wanting to meet her at the airport. So Dempsey asks, when did they talk? She says a month ago. And she's like, why a month ago? When you're going to come see me? Like, did you want to see her? And she says she's not hiding anything from Dempsey. She told her she was going to England to meet her new girlfriend. And then the ex asked if she could pick her up from the airport and get a hotel to get closure. And Dempsey's like, oh my gosh, closure for what? She doesn't know. Did she mention that, part of her bucket list was having sex at an airport and she thought about that? No, of course not. So in Dempsey's voiceover, she says she thinks of all these things she's learned in this short amount of time. Like, she's cheated. She's talking to her ex. She feels like she doesn't know her as well as she thought she did. And she feels sick. She isn't sure that she can trust her. And if she can't trust her, what's the point? And this did not go the way Statler thought it should. Or thought it would. And, what did she expect? At least Dempsey wasn't like, don't move here at all. She was like, get a place down the road. Learn to work here. Make the, what were they called? The little trailer cabinet things, whatever. With the hot tub. Anyway, at least it wasn't a proposal. But it might as well have been. I'm going to go home and just come back and live here forever and ever and ever. So, we'll see how that goes. What do you guys think? Do you think they're going to make it all the way to the reunion? Let me know. Moving on, I want to get into Christian and Cleo. Cleo and Jane are on their way back to the Airbnb. Jane asks her, what she wants from her, what she needs her to do, anything specific. And she's like, your presence is going to help a lot. Cleo still upset that they agreed to talk about their intimacy. And, then he lied about it to the producers, said they didn't go all the way. For him to lie, she's, wondering if he's ashamed that he did that with her. Meanwhile, Christian is catching us up on his side, and he says that morning he sent a text to her explaining that he told what he said to the producers regarding their intimacy. She called him upset. She called him a manipulator, a gaslighter. She asked him if he was a psychopath, which that last one is definitely a little extreme. But the first thing he said was, do you even know me? And he says it's upsetting that a small situation that could be fixed by a little communication has blown up this much. And I think that happens all the time to people. It's really hard to communicate. But he's not in a relationship with someone to be anxious all the time or wait for them to decide if he's evil or has ulterior motives. Like, they need to talk. He's not going to go on feeling this way. And, that's a good thing too, because Cleo and Jane are headed up the stairs. They get in. She tells Jane to make herself comfortable, and she's going to go get Christian. They come out. She's like, oh, this is my friend Jane. Sorry you're meeting in such an awkward situation. And he's like, yeah, it's not ideal. He's like, well, you guys probably already talked about this. So he's not getting a fair chance. But either way, Jane is her friend. He wouldn't have got a fair chance anyways. She's nervous about confronting him. She says being autistic, she needs emotional consistency when it comes to commitment. And because he's gone back on his words so much, she needs emotional support from her friend. I think she could get that without her friend there. It's a pretty personal conversation. And it's bad enough all these cameras and other people are there. But maybe that's why. Like, she might need her there in case she has a panic attack. She needs someone who knows how to help her get down from that or help her come back or feel safe. So I'm a little on both sides here with just her being there. She tells him, she's not feeling well. So she isn't sure how well she can articulate what she thinks. But last night they were intimate. And he makes it a big important part of them going forward as a couple. And the next day he changed his tune and lied. And she can't understand where he stands. He said when he messaged her and asked her what she said, he wanted to double check because he wasn't sure if she changed her mind and wasn't comfortable saying anything about last night. She told him she was perfectly happy with being open about it and what would bring him to think she changed her mind, especially when she's never not stuck to what she has said to him. Her friend's like sipping her tea like, I know that's right. So here I think that if she was uncomfortable and didn't want him to say anything, she would have initiated it and texted him. But I know guys sometimes have issues remembering things or what they were supposed to do or say. And he might have just wanted to make sure he was doing and saying the right thing. We'll give him a little tiny break for now. He starts stuttering on his words, and he's saying, he was trying to avoid a situation like this. And she's like, well, you created it. He's like, why would I be intimate with you last night, express those feelings, and then lie? And then they're like, but you kind of did. And he's like, no, I didn't, not in my mind. Jane gets an interview and she says, he's trying to save face. He got caught and now he's trying to find an excuse. And that's why he's so defensive. She's got a point. She thinks, he's not confident enough to date a trans woman. And he's basically only admitting to sleeping with her because she challenged him. I don't think that's fair because he kissed her on TV a couple weeks ago. And maybe he just needed time to let it sink in and he panicked. He woke up hungover. He didn't remember what he was supposed to say. I don't know. Either way, Christian's feeling real ganged up on and on the spot because it's the two of them and just him. So he asked Jane to leave so he can talk to Cleo, on his own. She says sure and leaves. He gets in the interview. He says he's being defensive between, because they're both chiming in and he's uncomfortable. But, Jane only really said 3 words to him. She was just kind of sitting there. So he wants to talk to Cleo one-on-one because she isn't giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's wondering if he can even be in this relationship anymore. Now he just wants an opportunity to explain his side of things. He wanted to double check with her before he said anything that made her uncomfortable. But when they were on the phone, she didn't let him speak. She said he's a gaslighter and a manipulator and asked him if he's a psychopath. And she's like, I said this was psychopathic behavior, which is great. I love it. And it's giving 2 different people. And she's the one who said he's a Gemini. How very Gemini of him, right? So he says that when she says that he thinks no matter what he says, she's going to think he's a gaslighter, he's trying to manipulate her. And it's like, well, he might be. You got to be on guard for that. But he's not going to be with someone who calls him these things. And she apologizes for not filtering herself. But she was very upset, and she still doesn't understand why he would hide their intimacy. She felt like he's not ready to be dating a trans person or doing it publicly. He says he doesn't care what society thinks. He let what his family thought affect him for like a brief moment. And she's trying to say she needs to know what his feelings are. And he's saying he's giving her the truth. And now, she's questioning him when he's telling the truth. He's very upset. She said he never felt bad about being transparent with their intimacy. Really, because he pulled out every baseball innuendo reference that you could have, right? She's like, we're going around in circles, and he missed the fact that she's giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's like, well, are you though? Because I don't feel that way. She's like, sorry. She's trying to see his perspective because he had second thoughts. He's like, no, I never had second thoughts ever. She's like, you had a second thought that I would feel comfortable telling everyone that we were intimate. He says this was extremely rough for him today, and it was for her too. And he's like, we can be stronger from this, and this can make us trust each other more and learn more about each other. He believes that, and she wants to believe that too. And she hopes he's sincere, and then they hug it out. She's still feeling confused. She isn't sure he's comfortable dating her. They invite Jane back in, and he wants to reintroduce himself. And maybe another time they could go get pints and hang out. She says sure. Cleo walks her out. Christian realizes he's made a mistake by not being open about their intimacy. He says that this wouldn't have happened if they had clear communication, and she had just given him the benefit of the doubt from the beginning. And he hopes that she can learn to trust him. She walks Jane out, thanks her for being there. Jane wants to know how she's really doing. She feels, bad for him that he felt she was questioning him. Jane's like, he was very defensive and also attacking in his defense. As her friend, she doesn't have a good feeling about this, and she wants her to be guarded. She's not sure if he's building a castle in the sand, that's going to collapse, and that's what she's worried about. Jane doesn't believe it was a misunderstanding because he's so defensive. She thought for him being right was most important. But Jane leaves. Cleo comes back. They get into bed. They're tired. And now who's insecure? Because Christian's like, we're doing good now though, right? She says they are. They definitely aren't. Honestly, I'm really torn because I feel like part of him could be manipulating her, and I don't think it's gaslighting because he wasn't telling her that he didn't say that, or they never agreed that they would talk about it. He said he was double checking. So that being said, I'm still torn. I'm gonna have to wait till next week and see how I feel. Let me know what you guys thought. Okay guys, we're about to get on a roller coaster. We're going to talk about Amanda and Rasvin. So we're starting out in the morning, and she's like, are you ever going to get up? And I swear she always just has this snotty tone in the morning. So asking him if he's ever going to get up. He doesn't think so because he's exhausted after last night. So we all know what that means. She says the last few days with him have been better. He's been showing her he cares for her. He's listening. She feels closer to him. So they stayed up all night, and she can't even get the words out to say about what they did, which is fine with me. She's just giggling so much. And so the producer says it for her. They were up all night doing it. So she agrees and laughs more. She felt like it was the right time, and it was difficult for her to hear her friend Deanna call their relationship toxic. Like, it was. And so you just got jealous and insecure, so you had to sleep with him. But instead of saying that, she said it made her want to be a better partner for him. So he can't believe they finally did it. And she's like, yeah, I feel like the waiting made it more special. She was worried she would feel bad being with someone else intimately, but she didn't feel bad, and it was a good thing. He's happy to hear it, because she's usually distant with him, and in that moment, he felt connected to her. He says they need to get ready. He is so excited for their trip. She gets to see Dracula's castle. I am so jealous. I am such a vampire lover. Like, oh, all of it, except for Twilight. I'm not a fan. Anything else? Underworld, sign me up. I'm very jealous. So, I think they're going to even stay the night there. He said he was planning a video shoot for these days, but he postponed it because Amanda was uncomfortable about him, kissing a girl in the video. So we get a little flashback. We get to see him telling her he pushed it back because he wants to spend the days, that she's here with her. She was pleased. And I thought that was good. He should have done that. He's right. She's only going to be there a few weeks. And, this should prove to her that he cares. He wants to make it work, and that he feels that they're in a good place. So then they get there to the castle, and it's so cool. It's not what I was imagining, but it's still so cool. And I'm just wondering, what the hell was Amanda wearing with those thigh-high socks and the camo short pants? What was that? So he asks if she's scared, and she says no, and he's trying to play like a creepy vampire. And he's like, oh, you think I'm not a vampire? Let's race. And you can see how fast I am. And he's serious, so they're going to race. He wins. She was embarrassed, laughing the whole time. And she's like, yeah, I let you win. And this is what he wanted, to be relaxed and happy. And he hopes they can plan their future. Things are getting serious. They were intimate, and he hopes that she stays being in this 100%. Then we get the tour of the Castle Dracula. And he says, he really wants to go to this castle because it's, Dracula's castle. It's beautiful. And Miss Wet Blanket says she doesn't think Dracula's castle sounds romantic. But, I don't think anything does to her. And she says, it's an urban legend based on a king who did really horrible things in the castle. But she thinks the thought he put into it was romantic. Has she never heard a Dracula story? It's always a love story. Any vampire thing, it's forbidden love. What is she? Not romantic. Sickening. So they see a cool room with saws and an interrogation seat, and it's just a very spiky chair. She's like, oh, you sit here and you have to tell me the truth. He says he always tells her the truth. And he's like, maybe you should sit here and I can ask you some questions. And she's like, or he tells her he always answers her questions. She doesn't answer his. For example, he got the visa. When do you think you're going to tell the kids we're more than friends and then he could be there? Then she says he got approved for his tourist visa yesterday. And seeing him happy makes her happy, but she still doesn't know how soon she wants him to visit. So he asks again, when do you think you'll tell them? He feels like she's lying to them. And this passive-aggressive ass says, I will tell my children when I'm ready. And she doesn't know when that's going to be. He's frustrated because she never answers him, and it's always, I don't know, or I will see. And she's like, I don't know when my children will be ready, and she thinks it's going to be emotional for them. And he tells her maybe she overreacts a little bit. about how they're going to react. She doesn't know how they will. And she's like, exactly, I don't know how they will, but she wants them to be 100% themselves. I'm like, what does that even mean? Maybe she means like grieving over their father, something she hasn't done. So he's like, well, what if we wait and you prepare them and eventually they say they don't want, Rasvin in their lives? She's like, they might say that. He wants to know what then will happen. Like, will she stop her happiness? When has she been happy? She doesn't know now, and she's like, let's not speculate. And finally, he's like, no, we need to. I need answers. She's like, I just don't know. We'll have to see. And then she's like, let's go look at something over here. So she pulls the I don't know on him again. She understands now that he has the visa, he wants these answers, but she's never had to figure out the proper way to introduce a man to her kids. And that's fair, but maybe if you were in therapy or something, they would help you with it. Or you wouldn't even be here putting this poor man through this torture. I bet he'd rather sit in the chair at this point. She says, someone very loud drove by. She tells him, that he's being pushy and not understanding, and it makes it more difficult for her. She tells him, her choices about wanting to tell her kids has nothing to do with him. And, she's annoyed at the fact that he doesn't get that. He says he does. He just doesn't want to feel like a fool. So then later we see them again, and they look mad in their little photos with the names. So it's about to go down. They ask Amanda what's going on, and she says they had a fight last night. Figures that the first time they talk about something at night, they end up in a fight, because usually they go home and discuss nothing. Anyways, it was about her feeling like maybe they're different and it's just not going to work. She said last night she asked him what his plan is when he comes to the United States. He got defensive. She thinks he thought she was saying, you need to get a job immediately and you need to pay half of the bills immediately. She pays all her bills just fine without him. But if he's coming there, she would expect him to have a plan and to be able to support himself financially and not sit there and chase his dreams while she's supporting him and the kids and herself. So they need to talk about realistic expectations when it comes to the kids. She got the impression like if he goes to the U.S. and doesn't become an actor or a singer, he's not going to do anything. Like, to her, a man should care, about his partner and his family and do anything to contribute and help out. She thinks he's prideful and wouldn't take another job while pursuing his dreams. And he turned that into she doesn't want to support him or his goals, and it just got worse from there. Meanwhile, Rasvin's out having coffee and a chat with the producers. He says last night was very hard. Things were good. They drank some wine, and then they started talking about things. And she tried to tell him, like, who do you think has more money? And he didn't think he should say anything because she has more money. And he's never asked her for anything. She also then started comparing him to Jason, saying he provided for her. If she wanted something, he would go and get it. That really hurt him. He can't win a comparison with Jason because Jason isn't here. He passed away. So then we get back to the Ice Queen, and she admits that she said hurtful things. And she told him she thinks he isn't the type of man she's looking for. She wants a man who will put his pride aside and do anything for his family. Like, first of all, she won't even tell her kids about him. So what family is she talking about? Second, maybe that will change when he meets them, and gets that feeling of, oh, this is where I need to be, and this is my family, and I want to protect them. Up until now, he's just been a single guy. Also, I feel this was her way of trying to get him to stop his career, stop acting, stop making sexy pancakes for breakfast, Grow up, leave your stupid dreams behind, become what I want you to be, not what you want. She told him, when she met Jason, he was a manager at a restaurant, and he started from the bottom and moved up, did what he had to do to support his family. She says he didn't respond well to that. He told her, why do you have to do this and ruin a good night? He feels she is saying really mean things, apologizing, and then doing it again. She told him she's trying to make it work, but in her heart, she doesn't feel like it will. Poor guy is out here crying. And then they switch back to her. She just doesn't think they will go well together. Finally, I about fell over, guys. She said, maybe I did get into a relationship too quickly. Was anyone else no shit, lady. We knew that. The first 3 minutes we saw you, we knew that. But I'm glad you finally caught up. And, she's like, does he know how to be with someone who still has open wounds of losing a husband and being a widowed mom? He says, he's been trying to keep things good because he knows she's having a difficult time. So he was trying to be understanding. And, eventually she'll heal. But maybe he lied to himself because, he didn't want to say he fell in love. And after all this time, it just wasn't right. She's the first person he's been with since he had his heart broke. And, for her, it's the first person after losing her husband. Maybe they're both broken and trying to find something in the other person that just isn't there. They just want to see it. Finally, after doing all of her makeup, Amanda squeezes out a tear. And, maybe she isn't ready for this, or he isn't what she needs. Poor Rasvin is he thinks something's wrong with him. But if you don't feel if you feel like something's wrong with you, you're not in the right relationship. And then he starts crying, and so did I. Because, have you guys ever felt what is wrong with me? I gotta be the problem. I want this so bad. It brought me back. So, Rasvin doesn't know if it's over. He's just very confused. I'm sure they aren't over, but, they should really take some advice from Carmela and not sit around and let the red flags get redder. I think that's my new favorite saying. I'm probably going to use it quite often for people, probably here. So I hope you are ready for that. I felt so bad for him, you guys. Oh, my heart broke. And she was just stoic and unemotional. And she made herself sound so innocent and monotone. And I was having a sweet, innocent conversation with him. And he just took everything I said wrong. And he's she compared me to her dead husband. Said he's a better provider. And I think for her to always be provide for your family, be for the family. Tell the kids about him. You think your kids are that naive that they don't know that something's up with this guy that mommy's staying with for 3 weeks? Kids are a lot smarter than people give them credit for. So that's it for this week. Let me know what you guys thought of that. Do you think that they're going to stay together, try again, talk it out? I don't think she deserves to meet his mama and try her, pig brain casserole or whatever she makes. She doesn't deserve it. Anyways, I will have the new episode review recap of The Other Way pretty soon in the next couple days. And also Last Resort. I'm hoping I can get to that. I'm not that excited to watch it, but I'm gonna because I watch all that stuff. But I'm not really a fan of any of the couples. Well, I'm sick of seeing Ed and Liz. I'm sick of seeing Angela. Yara and Jovi are cool. I like Kalani and Asuelu, but I don't care if they're together or not. I like them individually because they're really mean to each other. And I still don't know why the hell Molly and Kelly are on there. But if you guys are interested in that, let me know, because then I'll definitely talk about it. And yeah, I'm back on track. So get ready to see me a lot. And if you want to see me a lot, don't forget to subscribe and all that fun stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to take some deep breaths and take care of yourself. So have a good night or day or morning, and I'll see you later. Bye.